According to Human Rights Watch reports of the year 2019, the crisis against humanity in Cameroon has escalated since the outbreak of the Anglophone crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions. In this newscast, we come up on this recent declaration on the social media. And at the side, we shall be taking you to give you follow-up of the updates of the case of Yaoundé, where a student stabbed a teacher back there, the circumstances of the death. In this newscast, we shall have an extract of the doctor at the CHU. Good evening and welcome on this other edition of the news on Equinoxe Television. Like we told you in just jiffy, that we shall be talking a lot more about the situation and how Cameroon is faring. And this, according to remarks by the Human Rights Watch, a declaration or remarks made for the year 2019, the crime against humanity seems to have escalated. We have a lot more of details on this with Armstrong for Miss Sanda with much details.
8 paragraph 2019 situational report, Human Rights Watch presents a damaging image of Cameroon in the domain of the respect of human rights. The report centers on rights violated in the fight against separatists in the Anglophone regions, Boko Haram in the far north, crackdown on opposition political parties, sexual orientation and gender identity. As concerns the war in the Anglophone regions, Human Rights Watch said government forces and separatist fighters have violated rights of Anglophones in their activities from January to December 2019. According to Human Rights Watch, specific activities of government forces that violated human rights are a February 2019 attack on Bole Bakundu, a village in the Meme division, southwest region of Cameroon, killing 10 men suspected to be separatist fighters. Human Rights Watch said 2 months after the Bole Bakundu attack, soldiers stormed Melov in Kumbu, Bui division of the northwest region, killing 5 persons, including a man suffering from mental disability. The international rights group said houses were burned and properties looted during the process. Human Rights Watch said soldiers attacked Mankon in the northwest region on May 15, burning 70 houses and killing at least 3 persons, and went further to note that the government of Cameroon launched an investigation on the issue, but results are still being awaited. The rights group also outlined a similar attack on the Bafut Palace, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, killing 1 person and looting the palace museum. On the activities of armed separatists, Human Rights Watch said they abducted 170 students, a teacher, 2 night watchmen in a school in Kumbu on February 15, 2019 and released them a day later amidst rumors of ransoms paid. Human Rights Watch authenticated a video showing armed separatists in mid-May torturing a man in an abandoned school in Bali. According to Human Rights Watch, separatists kidnapped at least 40 people in Bafut on June 18, beat and robbed them. The rights group also highlighted the high-profile abduction of Nijon Frundi, national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, and Cornelius Fontaine Ezwa, the then Archbishop of Bamenda. The activities of security forces and separatist fighters have caused the death of 3,000 civilians in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon since 2016, according to Human Rights Watch 2019 report. Regarding the fight against Boko Haram, its figures say 100 attacks were carried out and 100 people killed in the far north region in 2019. Human Rights Watch says the Yaoundé regime has curtailed freedom of association, expression and assemblies. The government, the report say, has systematically banned activities of opposition political parties from protesting or expressing their feelings on political issues in Cameroon. They highlighted the arrest and detention of Professor Maurice Kamto, national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party, alongside 200 CRM party supporters and sympathizers. Human Rights Watch, an international rights group, said France, the United States of America, The United Kingdom and Germany are key international actors in the security landscape and operations in Cameroon.
Riding on, we take you to a compound here in Douala at Makepe Misoke, where back there we have persons internally displaced or persons who are seeking for refuge over months as the Anglophone crisis keeps escalating. Even at humanitarian aid given to IDPs across the country, this over 300 persons are in dire need of aid. We have details with Innocent Azay.
Chief Dr. Joseph Mufo hails from Santa Subdivision, Mesam Division of the Northwest Region of Cameroon. He now resides in Makepe Misoke in the Douala 5 municipality. He is hosting over 300 internally displaced persons from the two English-speaking regions.
Today, the list I transferred to the GO of Douala 5, it was 314, but others have added. I transferred the same list equally to the Minister of Territorial Administrations with a letter. I equally wrote a letter to the head of state.
They sleep everywhere in the compound.
Les déplacés habitent ici, ils habitent ici, et d'autres dorment ici à la cour.
The house condition is not really favorable with us. We live in a carabout house. With mosquito, the condition has not really been easy with us. We pay 15,000 francs per month, but at the end of the month, we are even unable to pay the rent.
Feeding condition is horrible.
All my small than one come out. The day now, even for chop. They are the final to feed them in no day.
A difficult moment for us to live where we were living and coming to a strange land. It has really not been easy with us.
Access to medication is equally a big challenge.
So one day they will come out for a skin, or you food them. So one day they not even work.
She struggles to raise money and send her younger ones to school, but nothing seems to be moving.
We know they, so I cry.
We are people living with disability. I am my husband. My husband is he manufactures shoes. Arriving here in Douala, it was not really easy. He's really feeling difficulties to make himself being known to the world because of lack of capital.
To survive, they engage in petty trades and other domestic income-fetching activities.
So you can see, in short, I can say I'm a designer of shoes, but I left Bamenda unexpectedly. When I came here, I was just struggling, working with people left and right. It's just about 4 months ago, which I have a small place where I can sit and do something. Although it's not going, due to lack of finances left and right, I'm unable to succeed.
While wishing government's intervention, the impact created by Équinoxe Television during end-of-year festivities is applauded.
Had it not been Equinoxe, they could have not even enjoyed Xmas. They came here with cloth, they came here with food, with rice, with all kinds of things, oil soup, in order to rescue them, so that they should at least feel happy in order to end the year of 2019.
They battle to cope with the deplorable living conditions, but get more and more prayerful. The armed conflict ends for their possible return to their respective localities in the northwest and southwest regions.
Deplorable situation there of internally displaced persons across the country. We talk something else. We take you over to the center region of the country with this images and a brief update from Yaoundé on the case of the Form 3 of age 15 student who stabbed his part-time maths teacher at the Lycée Classique of Colbison in the Yaoundé. Crisis meeting was held yesterday by the Minister of Secondary Education, Dr. Nalovo Lyonga, and the school staff with precisions on discipline and the security of teachers, which should be prone in the school milieu, because incidents of this sort are more and more recurrent. Meantime, on circumstances of the death of the mathematics teacher, we caught up with Dr. Nassis Ateba of the CHU Yaoundé Medical Center. Here is an extract of the medical expert.
Okay, we say we received the patient was already dead. so he was already dead. So what we did, the first thing was to know if he was still alive. But what we realized is that the patient was already dead. So at that time, there was nothing to do. Yes.
What is the cause of the death? What can you say the cause?
The cause of the death is hemorrhagic shock. Yeah. So when the patient came out, he has a wound there. He lost his a lot of blood. So when he reached the emergency department, he was already dead. We think it was hemorrhagic shock, the cause of the death.
And we talk something else. We take you to the west region of the country, where elements of forces of law and order, precisely of the National Gendarmerie in Fumban, west region of the country, are in search of some two culprits reported for digging into tombs in search of human bones. These bones traffickers, we have details with you, was Smart Ajik and Gabriel.
5 famous or chin bones, 6 tibias, 2 radius and 1 coccyx were the items collected by the officers of the judicial police in Yaoundé from some alleged bone traffickers. According to Commissioner Babangida Ahmadu, head of Intervention and Research Unit of the Judicial Police, they got the information about the 3 bone traffickers from informant in Fandena. It is from the information gathered that he descended to the field with his elements for an operation which led to the arrest of these 3 alleged bone traffickers. The 3 alleged bone traffickers, whose ages range from 30 to 50 years, will have to continue answering questions from the security officers as investigation continues.
And we talk something else in this newscast. We go memory lane. We take these images in brief to talk about another historical figure in Cameroon. There we talk about Équinoxe 1G. Today marks the anniversary of the death of Équinoxe 1G, one of Cameroon's historic figures, executed on the 15th of January 1971 at exactly 48 years. The latter took the struggle to the post-independence era and resisted the government of former president of Cameroon, Amadou Ahidjo. He was captured, charged and sentenced to death at the age of 48. Would note that Équinoxe 1G served as vice president of the UPC party, and in 1960 he became leader of the said UPC party in Cameroon. We talk something else. The senior divisional officer for the Mungo division, Bertrand Jana, has hit his sledgehammer on some recalcitrant contractors who abandoned government projects halfway. Measures on how to handle these contractors have been discussed recently. We have details with you, Immaculate Fogwe.
The Mungo division in the littoral region is plagued with several developmental challenges. The situation has been blamed on the negligence of most contractors who abandon projects halfway. The senior divisional officer of the Mungo division, Bertrand Jana, during the launching of the 2020 budgetary session, promised dealing with some of these contractors. A follow-up committee has been created to look into the situation. We are making sure that the Mungo division benefits from the state budget awarded them. We are planning to sensitize and educate some of these contractors so they will be conscious of their task. Inhabitants of the Mungo division say they are hoping for a change in their living conditions. What has been said is very encouraging. If the announced measures are put in place, then I'm sure the year 2020 will be a better one as things will change. The ball is now in the hands of contractors and local administrators.
And we now take you out of our frontiers. We'll make our first stop in Gambia with this image on your lead or on your screen out of the country. The Gambia's longtime leader, Yahya Jammeh, who fled into exile 3 years ago after an election loss, has announced plans to return to the West African nation where human rights activists say he ordered the killings of political opponents during his rule. And from one country to another, we take you to Nigeria, where Nigeria today reflects on its 50 years devastating civil war that killed more than 1 million people in the country. History teams would say most of those who lost their lives in what became the Biafra War died from fighting disease and starvation during the 2.5-year conflict. And we now talk sports news. It henceforth definite. Cameroon would host the 2020 CHAN Games and the 2021 African Cup of Nations Games. These declarations were made in Yaoundé today by the president of the Confederations of African Football, Ahmad Ahmad. We have details with you, Babila Jonathan.
Je suis aujourd'hui convaincu que le peuple camerounais vivra cette Coupe d'Afrique.
African Football Confederation CAF President Ahmad Ahmad is confident that Cameroon will host the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations.
La passion du football qui existe ici dans ce pays.
According to him, Cameroonians' passion for football demonstrated in the level of preparation for the continental football competition is incomparable.
Dans le travail de préparation,
after having evaluated work going on at different African construction sites, Ahmad Ahmad says optimism is high with regards to Cameroon's capacity to organize the AFCON.
L'attachement de la population camerounaise au football africain.
Cameroon's commitment to African football is qualified as an indication that the African Football Confederation, CAF, is not only CAF, but a representation of the entire African continent. On the request of Cameroon, the Confederation of African Football has scheduled the AFCON 2021 from January 9 to 6th February.
And that does it for national and international news. Up next, we take on Talking Point. Right here with us on Talking Point, we have a barrister Tamfo Richard, member of the Cameroon Bar and Nigerian Association. Welcome on board at Talking Point.
Thank you.
And you're right here with us. Certainly, you're abreast with the news in the Yaoundé. This regarding to the situation of a student who stabbed a teacher. About how do we handle or how do we appreciate such a situation on a legal twist?
Yes, the first thing to determine is the age of the person who commits the offense at the time is doing the act. Mm-hmm. This particular case concerns a minor. I think he was age 15 years. Under the Cameroon Penal Code, he is criminally responsible, though his responsibility may be diminished because he can have some benefits of some special measures. So, and now coming back to the act that he committed, is also provided in the penal code. I think that should be assault on a public servant because the teacher that he stabbed was a public servant. So when the judges will be appreciating the material elements of the offense and other aspects of an offense, they will have to put those issues in place to determine exactly which sentence will befall on him. So as he stands, he risks either a lifetime imprisonment or a death sentence.
And what about the damages maybe paid to the family?
Exactly. The civil party. Exactly. The civil party will also claim from the court to be awarded civil damage because that was just a young graduate who just finished with his studies. His future was still very bright. The family is entitled to claim damages with respect to what they want, with respect to their claim that they want to put before the court.
Now, we've realized certainly with updates on local news in Cameroon that the school milieu seems to have been very unsafe, both for the learners and even for the teachers. The teachers with the case in Yaoundé, but some days back, last week, we had a situation in Bonaberi where we had a teacher who raped close to 18 pupils in the classroom. How do we handle such a situation still in the school milieu?
Yes, we need to question our environment and our society, because those acts are very recurrent. We see that teachers or even the students are exposed to all sorts of action or evil acts, be it from the students or from the teachers. So we should think, what we should be thinking is whether at the chain of responsibilities, whether or the school, maybe the school authorities, when the students come to class, at their back search, is there some form of discipline? Is there communication with the student to tell them exactly what can be the obligations with respect to the school? So I think we should question the mentality of our society and try to see how we can remedy it. Because when, like the case of the rape, that's an adult. You need to ask yourself which type of, is it a temptation or is it an, I don't understand what can prompt him, an adult, to go as far as committing such acts on minors of 8 years old. It doesn't even sound in the ear. So I think we should just put in place a good system of governance, and if everybody carries out his duties, we may come to avoid such incidents in school.
A good system of governance, like taking into consideration what aspects?
Look, for example, now it is very abnormal for a student to be in class with a cell phone. It doesn't disturb the school administrators. So I think a proper school will have to maybe even educate the students on maybe citizenship's obligations. At first, you used to have fear to address the teacher, but nowadays it is easy for you to just insult your teacher. You even go as far as fighting with him. Okay, this is what has happened. So I think we should try and revisit maybe our educational system, and people who are in the chain of command the chain of authority should carry on their duties appropriately.
Now, given that we're talking about the rights of the pupils or the learners, students and the teachers, does the teacher have the right to correct or to punish a child? We have had incidents in Cameroon where a teacher corrects a student, corrects a pupil, and the pupil takes the message back to the parent, and the parent comes and fights the teacher.
Of the normal circumstances, there should be an ethics, there should be a professional ethics with respect to teachers. Teachers should be able to know what are their rights, and vis-a-vis also the students. So I think I don't have a hand on the professional ethics of the guiding teachers, but I think there should be something like that, because if the teacher has the upper hand to flog a child without any restrictions, that's obviously mean that if the child is able to retaliate, he's going to do so. So I think there should be a professional ethics that will be able to explain to either the teacher on what are his obligations and maybe rights vis-a-vis the student, and also the students should also be able to know that, okay, this is how I have to behave when I'm in class or when I'm in school.
Okay, thank you so much. There we had a Barrister Tamfor Richard, member of the Cameroon Bar Association, who was reacting there on the incident of recalcitrant students more and more in the school premises. And up next, we shall be taking a civil society actor by name Cynthia Wakuna, who is one of the active members of a non-governmental organization in Cameroon. She too will be reacting on the internally displaced persons and your needs, as we watched recently via a report presented by Innocent Aze on this swollen number of IDPs across the National Triangle, most especially in very close regions to the northwest and southwest regions like the littoral region. We watched the situation of a family which has turned to somewhat a global village with about 300 persons. Cynthia Wakuna, you are right here with us. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
And definitely, I believe you were watching, would see the images on the IDPs in Douala. It was quite shocking.
It was really sad, really sad. But permit me to say this is the sad reality which we are experiencing, especially for those of us who are working on the field. And maybe it doesn't meet up to most other situations which we've had to see, most other precarious situations which we've had to see. And I work in the Northwest region. I am Programs Director of Mother of Hope Cameroon, a women and youth-led organization working on peace and security and fighting violence extremism. And the birth of the crisis has opened up a conversation about the growing number of IDPs in the northwest region, in the southwest region, and who are now gradually moving to other regions for security and safety and to be able to put their lives together. And because of this growing need, given that we're working with women and young people in particular before the outbreak of the crisis, now we started receiving reports of people who've left their homes because they were burnt down, of young girls who were raped, of people who lost their farmlands, and the list went on and on and on. And at our own level, we tried to source for funding, and we're able to carry out a trauma healing kind of workshop session for internally displaced persons and victims of the Anglophone crisis, both in the Northwest and Southwest region. This happened sometime last year in Yaoundé. Trust me, it was difficult bringing these IDPs together because you don't just wake up one morning and tell people we want to train you, we want to listen to your stories, and we want to offer you some psychosocial counseling. They don't know you, they are skeptical and they are afraid, they're trying to put their lives together and they have difficult moments. But we struggled to pull through, we were able to get over 50 IDPs and victims of the Anglophone crisis in Yaoundé for 3 days, and we were basically listening to their stories, because sometimes...
What kind of stories? What kind of stories? The women, for instance, and the kids. What are their stories? What are their experiences? Because we watched the report a few minutes ago, and we realized that they have needs. Maybe needs which the country is yet to address.
Exactly.
Yeah. What kind of experiences were you having back?
Basically, we wanted to hear the circumstances which led to their present situation, and they were sharing their experiences. We had stories ranging from people whose houses were burnt down, their businesses burnt down. We had stories of people who lost over 15 members of their family in one day, either shot by the separationists or the military, as they alleged. We have people whose relatives were shot in front of them. It is sad, and I sat in a hall and I could do nothing else but shed tears, and I didn't know how to console these women. And now they are lost, some of them living in the bushes. We actually had about 3 internally displaced persons living in the bushes in the southwest region who came with babies who were malnourished. It's that bad. And that was basically to listen to their stories and reassure them that people cared about them, and that we were going to work tirelessly to see how we could address some of their needs. And basically what came out of this working session was that we were able to identify personally the needs of those people. Because really
what
sometimes...
are their needs?
Yeah, we have basic needs, housing, food, shelter, clothes.
Housing, like they want to stay in the regions they are now living in, or they want to go back to their respective regions?
They don't want to go back.
Okay.
They're not sure it's safe. They're not certain they're going to be safe. They just want to, for those who are in the bushes, if somebody could genuinely get them out of the bushes and provide a roof over their head wherever, away from where the incident happened, they'll be very, very, very comfortable. And then some other thing which I think people who are intervening on the field and other besides actors are failing to recognize is psychosocial need. The need for psychosocial care and mental health. Because sometimes these IDPs do not just need the food, they do not just need the shelter, they do not just need the sanitary parts,
they
need psychosocial support. They need somebody to listen to them, to take them out of the pain. It's beyond the physical need most of the times.
Now, if failure to meet to the psychological needs leads to what at the long run? What could be the effect at the long run?
We have widespread radicalization. We have people who are angry and bitter from within, and we've listened to stories of people who wish they could, revenge on people who caused this. And if care is not taken, if we are not taking absolute care of these people, especially the young ones, the tendency for them to pick up the guns is high. Some of them are picking up the guns already. Something needs to be done to be able to suppress this pain and give them opportunity to speak out and to be heard, so that they can have the kind of peace that comes from within and they can be able to move on, really. Because if we are going to be able to curb the vandalization and the violence, we need to address what the physical eyes cannot see, which is deep within. And so the next stage of the project where we worked on last year is to provide, after having identified the needs of these IDPs and these victims, We are going to be providing sessions of psychosocial counseling, which we intend to attach to the social to the Ministry of Social Affairs in each region. We're trying to make sure that there are psychosocial counselors who are able to be at the centers at particular hours within the day.
What's the feedback from the ministries? What's the feedback you have already on the ground?
I really cannot say that now because this is the beginning of the year. We're still working on putting all of this together. It had to be the second part of the project. So we're still, I'll be happy to come back and give you some feedback as soon as we have some.
Okay, definitely. Without any transition, we talk about the incident in Yaoundé. Certainly, we were abreast with the news yesterday. How do we explain such violence which is growing in the school milieu?
We have worked in schools, and usually, most of the times, this is a replication of violence from the home or from the community in which the children find themselves. Because violence is a cycle. But the moment you come from an environment which is violent and where people have no other way to settle scores but to pick up arms and to retaliate, the children have a way of catching this and they express themselves in like manner. And there's an issue of there's something wrong with our systems. Morals are dying on a daily basis, and something I'm very worried about. I'm asking, where is the place of morals and religious studies in the schools? At first, we used to have religious studies, which were taken very important. I think when I was in school, we had a session for morals and religious studies. I mean, sometime midweek, Wednesdays at noon. All of that is disappearing gradually. And whether we like it or not, it has an effect. Now we begin to recognize just how much those sessions were important. Because it begins to conscientize the children, it begins to bring them up. It's not just about academics. We're molding people who are going to take this generation forward and take the future into their hands. We cannot afford to let these children lose their morals.
Is there any possibility to gain back some of such children who are going out of hand?
Sure. Hope is not lost, I must say. I think in government institutions we have counselors. I don't know how equipped these counselors are to handle, but with the growing rate of violence in schools, I think the system and the government has to have a hands-on, especially when it comes to the counseling department, because these are the people who are supposed to be trained not only to handle academic needs, but to be able to look at this psychological aspect I'm talking about. Because really, it is what reflects in children's attitude. And so if government can have professional counselors institutionalized within institutions, then they can be able to identify some of these tendencies and these behaviors and work on them before they escalate like this.
We have discipline masters in some cases in schools.
We do. Sometimes it's not about the whip. It's mental. It's psychological. It's beyond what we can see with our eyes. And it's something I think institutions should take very seriously.
Thank you so much. We have Cynthia Wakuna, a civil society actor, and with this we close this pack of the news on Equinoxe Television. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll meet you tomorrow, same time, the same vessel. Have a lovely evening.